welcome back. This is Antonio Melendez with Pluck Pro's Complete Guitar Course for Beginners. This is lesson 3 in some basic right-hand strumming patterns in the Spanish style, flamenco style. We learned a couple progressions already. We learned some good strumming patterns. Today we're going to start incorporating two other fingers, excuse me, the ring, middle, and index are going to be all doing downstrokes. This is commonly referred to as a rasgueado. Rasgueado in Spanish basically means scraping or rasping, I guess you could say, or raking your fingers across the strings. And that's pretty much what we're going to be doing. So if you want, just throw your A minor chord, rest your thumb on the E string, and this is really awkward for most guitar players at the beginning. I mean, I think for everybody that I've ever shown this to, it's always been awkward, including for me. And so what you want to do is you're going to kind of load your fingers behind your thumb, and then you're going to kind of flick them out. So when I'm doing my rasgueado, and when you hear flamenco players playing really hard rasgueado, they're really packing a lot of punch in that flick. I mean, it's basically flicking a booger with each finger. So just picture you got a booger right there and flick it. And there you go. So resting my thumb right there, I'm basically flicking boogers downward. And I go down, down, down. Now, it's going to take a lot of practice to get that smooth because these fingers do not like to work independently. When that one goes, the rest want to go with it. So make sure that when you're practicing it, you're practicing 1, 2, 3. And make sure that each one sounds equally intense and each one sounds by itself, that it doesn't just mush together. And a lot of beginning guitarists will just go and think that's a rasgueado. It has to have that. You got to hear those 3. And so for now, we're just going to do those 3 downstrokes. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that 4th beat, we're going to leave as a second for you to reload. So let's go ahead and try that together. And basically, we'll go really slow. Basically, you're just going to flick down, and then you have that 4th beat to come back up. So it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You notice my pinky's flying out with my ring finger, and that's okay. It's doing what it naturally wants to do. It's not fighting it like some fingers want to do sometimes. It's just going because it's going to go. There is a technique in flamenco, older style flamenco, that they did use it, and they would go 1, 2, 3, 4, and it was called actually a quintuplet because they would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that was the technique. But modern flamenco guitarists don't really use the pinky as much. In the coming lessons, I'll do a couple rhythms that do involve the pinky. It sounds pretty cool too. But for now, just to get these fingers strengthened, we're going to use these 3. So we'll do that pattern 4 times, and remember that the 4th beat is there for you to reload. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. That's pretty tough. I'm sure you're probably struggling a little bit to get that out. So practice like crazy, just doing that over again. That's another thing you can do on your leg, on your desk, on your table, on the couch. Just practice 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And you can hear, the percussive sound of it hitting something. And as long as each of them sound the same. If you have one that sounds really weak, then obviously you have to strengthen that finger and focus on just that one. So you really want to get all 3 of them sounding the same. And then you want them to be in time. You don't want them to be, you want them to just continually go. If you're wondering how I'm getting that sound, basically I'm just touching the strings with my hand here on the left. And I'm just kind of have my index finger on the 5th fret, and then they're just touching. I'm not squizzing, I'm just muffling them. A lot of flamenco guitarists use that sound as kind of an introduction, and it's really kind of cool. It's good percussive sound. So you can practice both ways. You can practice or, and they both sound cool. So practice like crazy. All right, assuming you practiced and you're pretty comfortable with that, we're now going to throw an index finger upstroke. So it's going to go down, 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 up. And that's going to give us our 4 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you do it in full speed. really sounds kind of cool. But it's really important to get that clean sound, that you have to get each of those fingers sounding strong, sounding equal, sounding unique. So let's go for the progression that we were doing before was A minor, C, D minor, E. We're going to use those same chords to practice the Raschiato. 4 beats, each finger gets a beat, and don't forget the index finger upstroke. You'll notice when I do the upstroke that it's basically all the fingers are reloading at the same time. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So that was 4 cycles, 4 beats. Practice that like crazy. Ultimately, you're really not going to be playing each finger as its own beat. You're actually going to be squeezing all 4 of those strokes into one beat. But until then, you're going to practice each one as its own beat because you really want to get used to the tempo. They actually become 16th notes when you play it in tempo, which is... So I'll go 1 and 2 and 3 E and a 4 and that's how we're going to use it. So assuming you practiced all that, let's move on to that part now. So you have 1 and 2 and 3 E and a 4 and. So the index up and down is just like before. On the 3rd beat, instead of doing a slap, we're going to do 3 E and a. 3 E and a. And that's 16th notes. So 3 E and a. So 1 and 2 and 3 E and a 4 and. So let's go ahead and do that in tempo. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. Okay, so now let's plug in the chord progression. We'll go ahead and do 2 counts on each chord. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so that basically broke down the first 2 downstrokes on the A minor, the Raschiato, and the regular downstroke on the C. Then the 3rd chord, the D minor, down, up, and the E major got the Raschiato. So practice that. Again, practice all the chord combinations. Practice putting the Raschiato in a different spot. Instead of doing 1 and 2 and 3 E and a 4 and, you can do 1 and 2 and 3 E and a 4 E and a. And you're doing 2 Raschiatos in a row. That's a good exercise to try too. It's just real slow practice to getting over and over again. You can do that with any chords. You can just sit there and do a continuous Raschiato. And if you relax, which is very important, you relax, it'll come smoothly. If you're tense, it's not going to work. You won't be able to do it if your muscles in your hand are tense. So keep them relaxed. Okay. One last thing that we can do is adding those little extra notes that I spoke of in an earlier lesson. For example, on the A minor chord, I could flatten down and do that. I could go 1. So experiment with those. Add those little extra notes. They're the basic notes that are in the open scale we learned before. The F, the G, the C, and the D, those are all good little extra notes to throw in. So practice hard, have a good time, and stay relaxed. All right, thanks for checking us out. This is Antonio Melendez with Plug Pro's Complete Guitar Course for Beginners.